Oh boy, well, Kerry Guard, welcome to the Hotness Unleashers show pre-function. Get to know each other because we will not have time on Saturday to get to know each other at all, right? I mean, it is just going to be a whirlwind of action, and yeah, I mean, so we'll see if anybody shows up with us right now. But I really want to hear your. Well, you know what? We haven't checked in like in a year, maybe.
I know. It's been a while. Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
been a
a little
beat.
DM here, a little DM
You've
there,
been
maybe a
busy.
comment or two or something. So what's cooking in Guernsey besides kids and music and getting lost in the night and things like this? I mean, some good stories you've been telling. Yeah,
Island life, right?
indeed.
Not anywhere I've ever lived in the US, and so I figured why not share the journey. What a journey it's been. Yeah, yeah. I played the viola all through middle school and high school and college up until I was 22, and then I moved to New York City and got too busy for it. And when I moved out here, my kids started playing music, and their music teacher's a friend of mine. I was like, I still have it sort of sits on the shelf and looks pretty up there, but I wonder if I still have it. Do you mind if I swing down? And she was like, yeah, let's see it. And sure enough, 15 plus years later, I can still play. It was rough, real rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still had it. And so I've been playing for the last 6 months. I joined an orchestra, and it's this little pop orchestra. It's been really fun, and that's where I got really lost because it was at the other side of the island on the top of a hill, and
Okay.
Google doesn't really understand the roads of Guernsey, and so it kept trying to take me down these piddly lanes. I'm a new driver. I've just started driving in Guernsey about a year ago. It took me 12 plus lessons to get my license here.
Wow.
They asked me, I'm vying for my citizenship in a year, and they're like, you have to take the citizenship test. I was like, I learned how to drive. Isn't that like, isn't that good enough? Like,
that's good. That's got to be good enough.
I'm on the wrong side of the road. I'm in a manual car, and I'm on these roads that were built for horse and buggy and never upgraded. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
That's so great. All right, now, all right. So what didn't you spent some time on the West Coast though too, right? You missed that. Wasn't there some Seattle time in there? Am I making
there
that
was some Seattle and California time. Yeah, I moved.
Okay.
I grew up on the East Coast in Philadelphia, and I moved to New York for a stint. And then I met my now husband, who was out in Seattle on a green card.
Okay.
And so I had to relocate to be with him. We hung out in Seattle for a bit, down the road from you, and then popped down to California for a few years. And then we decided Seattle's way cooler. And
yeah. Right. There you go. All right. So Guernsey it is. So let's talk about MKG because, I'm watching you, right? So at some point or other, since I've known you, you pivot. Well, you didn't pivot, but you niched down into cybersecurity. That was a new thing. How's that been going?
Yeah, it's been going great. It's nice to be able to speak very crystal clear inside an industry and really know that industry. We've been in cybersecurity for over 6 years.
Right.
So it's just now saying it publicly that we work with cybersecurity companies and have been, and here's all the case studies and all the work we've done and why cyber. So it's new, and it's not new.
Okay. Well, at least in terms of saying now, are you jettisoning? Is that jettisoning? Are you letting go of non-cyber clients or no? So you'll take them all if they really got to have you.
No. We won't take them all. They have to be within what we call complex B2B. So cybersecurity is an example of complex B2B. We also work with data management platforms. We dabble in healthcare if it's B2B focused. So we don't just take anybody. It's got to be in this realm of technology, and it's got to be something that's really hard to market to an interesting and complex audience, right? Cyber and CISOs, this definitely fits all of those boxes. We're not actively, I think there's an entrepreneur I follow on LinkedIn who said it best about like, yes, I'm focusing on this market from a marketing perspective. But the way that the industry grows is you have people that you work with, And here's a great example. We worked with this woman at a previous client who then got bought out and a whole bunch of things. And so basically the whole marketing department dispersed. And one of the main ladies we were working with moved to a completely different, she's in taxes now. Right. And she brought us along, right? She's wonderful. We've worked with her before. We know how to work with her. We're not going to turn that down because she's no longer in cyber.
Okay.
So that's just how we've naturally grown and how we want to keep growing, because we love working with great people. And we're marketing in a way that's saying, we know this industry really well. We want to work with these types of folks. Come join our network.
Okay. All right. That totally makes sense. I mean, you know, I've been directly involved in this version of B2B for, well, almost 6 years now myself, with Infuse, coming up on that anniversary soon. But it's totally true. Like, the relationships are what moves most things, it seems like, right? And you know, it's so funny. I refer to, well, funny to me, at least, that I refer to you and Danny as sort of my OGs, right? Like, and we're going to qualify this because Calvin Lawrence was on the Hotness Unleashers show last month, and he called it the double OG, the original gangster, right? And that's where you and Danny sit for me, right? And it was so great. Just I tell this story just all the time because I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget how I transitioned into a totally different, you know, way of being in a social context. You know, moved away from just, you know, hustling and pitching and slapping and doing all that, you know, just totally on topic all the time. And I have seen that in you over the last year or so, right? Like, the stories that you're telling are much more, you know, human and, I don't know, just a little more like about yourself and your kids and like life on the island and your, you know, some of the challenges that you faced moving and getting your business started and all that. So, you know, and I noticed too, like, one of my friends, Alicia Bobian, who works over at Upticks. I don't know if you know her, but she's kind of the same kind of move, and this has moved in the same direction, right? Hey, we got Jay Leach here with us. Now, it's important to Jay that I get his last name correct. But Jay, thank you, sir, for showing up today. I appreciate it, man. I'm seeing this kind of come. Are you seeing that have an impact on how your clients are relating to you? How's that been working out?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I haven't gotten any feedback on it that way. The way that I've just been doing it, B2B is a human interaction, right? When especially in the service line business like we are, like, you have to connect on a human level. People buy from humans, and they buy from humans they trust. And so if I show up as my most authentic self on LinkedIn in a way that's like, here's my world and here's where I live and I have a family and I have this life, it also brings my culture forward. So MKG Marketing has been a remote company since inception 12 years ago. And a big part of that was because we believe in people first and ensuring that people work to live and not live to work. And so if I'm showing up in that way of here's my life and here's how I live, then I'm living by our values and showcasing them as well. And so when clients show up and say, well, I want you working on weekends, I want you working on nights, I can say that's been very clear from the beginning that that's not who we are. And you can see how we all show up in that way. And so if you're looking for that, you're going to need to go somewhere else. But if you want great people who are going to work hard for you and the hours that we have dedicated to your business, we're in.
Nice. So, you know what? One of the things that's been on my mind lately, because Infuse is also my employer, is a virtual. It was run virtually, and this is actually new since COVID. We used to be based in Newton, had a big, had an office and all that stuff, and most people were there. But now, right, we're all over, like, by design. Everybody's dispersed. And I see some challenges, right? I do. And I don't think they're unique to Infuse. And I want to ask about them with you guys specifically as a helicopter flies by. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but the issues of data silos, right? And data silos being kind of a clunky term, I think, but it's this idea that intelligence kind of gets stuck, right, with individuals or with smaller teams that may not necessarily even have thought of talking to another team because there was no water cooler chat, right? They didn't overhear anything. There's not as many meetings or, and so I'm just kind of curious if that's an issue that you deal with, that you break down, or how do you, if it's not an issue that you deal with, are you just small enough that you're in constant collaboration all the time? Or like
it's just built into our culture. So one of the things that I say on a regular basis, my team's probably sick of me hearing it, is no person's an island.
Okay.
So it's just
even though you live on an island, but
even though I live on an island, you don't have to function like you're on an island by yourself, castaway style. You are connected to the team. And the way that we do that is then through systems and process, right? So we have email, which is primarily for clients. We do not email internally. It's too slow. It gets too clogged up and things get lost. So we leave email for client work primarily. We use Asana for project management. And so there's tons of chatter in Asana in terms of how things are moving from project to project, task to task, and keeping everybody abreast of it. And we use, our account directors are insane in the way that they use all the functionality of Asana. So it tells you if the task is blocked and you can't start because it's not, someone else isn't done yet, or if you're blocking someone else. So you can't miss your deadline because there's going to be this domino effect, right? So they've really wired Asana up to make sure everybody knows how they're playing a part as part of a team. And then we use, much to my team's dismay, they love to hate it, but I moved everyone a few years ago over from Slack to Zoom chat. Zoom has a chat function similar to Slack. You can create rooms, you can organize it, to have individual chats as well as group chats, the whole thing. And I did that because there's a video button in every single room. So if they're starting to try and problem solve through chat and it's not going well, then they can hit the video button and immediately get on a call and talk it through in a matter of minutes versus over hours.
Interesting. So in that model, then with that video, chat button, how do those invites get propagated, or is it just whoever was there? I mean, I guess
it goes out to the whole room. So we only have people in rooms for each client. So it's never really going to go out to the whole company if you're chatting about a specific client in a room. So if you push the video button in that room, then it'll go out to everybody who's involved in that room. Now, if people are away, then they don't have to necessarily pick up. It'll only be the people who are trying to problem solve in that moment. But it's pretty great. And the nice thing about Zoom too is I put on my do not disturb between certain hours, like when I'm cooking dinner or when I'm off for the evening. So even if you hit that that video button, I'm in the room, I'm not going to get it because my do not disturb is on. So there's other functionalities to make sure you're putting boundaries in place.
So even if the human, because I know personally, I'll see a D&D and then I'll just put the message out anyway, because I'm like, well, okay, you get it when you get back. So Zoom is managing that intrusion for you instead of the human who's saying hey, I'm going to put this message out there anyway. Oh, that's cool. So and that sounds like it's been really effective for you. Has it been? I mean, I know there's some complaints about Slack and its costs and so on, and Zoom has it been an affordable solution, relatively speaking?
Yeah, I don't have to pay for the chat function. So as long as everybody has a Zoom account, they can have a basic Zoom account, which is limiting them from a Zoom conversation standpoint, right? They only get 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But my account directors have hour-long meetings. So as long as an account director is the one who initiated the call, which generally they are, then the call can go on for however long it needs to. But yeah, it's really cost-effective because my whole team doesn't need, unlike Slack, my whole team doesn't need to be registered with a license for Zoom.
Gotcha. That's cool. That sounds really flexible. Yeah. Nice. I had no idea. And obviously Teams is a big player in this space. We use Teams internally here, and obviously Slack, but I didn't realize that Zoom had that. Had that as a feature. So now, how many employees do you currently have?
So the whole team's about 15.
Nice.
Including
nice.
me and my business partner. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Now,
we
so
just added one. We just hired someone yesterday.
Hey, congratulations. What role? What is it?
It's for the digital, it's a digital advertising expert.
Okay.
So
right on.
he's
Congrats.
he's out in Vancouver, Washington, actually. So
very cool. All
on the
right.
West
Nice.
Coast.
Nice. I'll have to reach out as soon as I get the old message. Now, I remember when you were hiring, I remember a story you told about hiring, and you got like 15,000 applications or something. Did you same story here?
It wasn't, well, it depends on the role, right? So this was an expert role, someone with 10 years of experience. So no, it was more around the 100 to 150. A lot of who didn't qualify. So I got one really strong candidate out of that, and then a referral from internally of the team, which is who we ended up hiring. But the other person, it was really, really close. But it's pretty astounding. It's pretty astounding that we found like a really strong candidate. And this happened earlier. We did it for analytics as well. We had about 100 applicants. We found 2 people out of that who we were like, wow, this is amazing. Because before then, we get a ton of applicants, but it was really hard to find like people who actually fit the bill. And so I don't know if the technology got better, or if we got better in our systems and processes, or if the layoffs have been contributing. But finding talent right now is, I don't want to say easy, but it's getting a lot. It's getting a lot streamlined. It's getting a lot easier.
Okay. Well, congratulations again. So you guys are growing, it sounds like. And, I was laughing with Tim Davidson this morning. He's producing a ton of content out here. He was constantly poking the B2B marketing bear, endlessly. And today's was so funny because he's about saying, well, it's a mock conversation with his wife, and his wife is him wearing a towel on his head was representative of her long hair. I don't know, just Tim, good old Tim, right? But he's talking about his favorite topic, which is do twice as much with half as much, right? And are you finding that true? I mean, are your clients coming to you saying, well, you know what, we need twice the ROI and here's half the money? Is that true for you right now?
Yes and no. It depends on where the client is in what stage they're in, right? So the enterprise clients, no, they get it. They're willing to pay up because they know that the impact it'll have, right? And they know that they have the resources that they can front load the money. So if they spend the money now, they know that the return will come faster. Even though it'll be somewhat down it would be 2 to 3 months versus 6 to 9 if you're working with smaller budgets like most startups are. Now the startups are doing that. They're looking at digital ads, especially as a faucet. They're like, well, we put money into it. Like, why aren't we getting any return back? It's like, well, it takes time. The systems have to learn. You have to A/B test messaging, and you have to tweak and futz with over the course of multiple months. And then you're going to start to see the return. The challenge with startups is they want to move incredibly quickly with not as much money, and they don't want to give things time to work. So they're like, oh, it's not working. This can possibly be what we should be doing. Let's completely pivot. And it's like, we're just getting traction. I know it's not the numbers you want at this very second, but progress over perfection. We are moving in that, like, hold. It's gonna be okay. We're onto something.
Just keep hanging in there. Yeah. It is interesting at a human level, particularly in B2B. Well, let's just say in these social environments, right? Where like, so Jay, for example, right? He showed up and left us a comment. I know Jay, met him, I don't know, last summer sometimes. It's been maybe 10, 12, 11 months, something like that. And Jay is an outlier because literally his following moved from about 15,000 or so people when I had him on the Hotness Unleashers show in November to over 100,000 now, right? So in the space of like 6 months, 7 months, well, I guess 8 months, like he has really literally taken off and has become a bona fide card carrying influencer, right? and has had a tremendous impact in these LinkedIn social networks. So I wonder if we get conditioned for that kind of an experience, right? We want that, right? Maybe business owners want that too, right? They're saying, well, I have the product, I have the message. Why am I not moving from 15,000 followers and then 8 months later to 100,000? Well, guess what? That doesn't, not everybody's going to be Chat GPT, right? It's not, or Google, right? I got to cite Google this morning as an example of, something that was like groundbreaking when it came out, like, oh wait, a search engine was just a single, input. Well, that was cool. And so I wonder if, for these small startups that you're working with, if they kind of suffer from some of that, right? Like, well, why aren't we, maybe we're just, not in the right channel. Do you think that mindset might be impacting their strategy a little bit?
Maybe. I think it comes down to investors and the fact that they need returns and they need customers and they need to prove that this thing works, right? So they get to a point where they have a working product and then all of a sudden they turn around and go, oh, but we need marketing. And so really, it's a shame that they couldn't incorporate marketing as they were building the product, right? So they could start building the SEO, they could start getting the engine going there, they could start testing which keywords and how to position themselves in the market. So it's not all of a sudden, oh, we got to turn it all on. And so I think everybody feels like they have to have a product. I also feel like the other misdemeanor is that it depends on your audience, right? Like if you're in cybersecurity, you don't have an endless amount of CISOs to talk to.
Yeah.
It's still a very growing, it's a growing industry that's still very, very young. And so if you feel like you want over 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, you're going to have a lot of waste there because it's not going to be the right people who are actually going to buy your product. Okay. So numbers are all relative.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it's that, the point I'm trying to get to is the speed, right? So if I just say like, here's my message, I put it out and it is taken up by whatever my market happens to be. If it's 100,000, that's representative of, this LinkedIn influencer community, but it's also could be, 5,000 or 100 or whatever the number is, but it's like meaningfully taken up and accepted and embraced, and people kind of get excited about it, right? And what you're saying is like, well, cyber, and there are other issues. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Well, not lately, like yesterday, was starting to wonder about the enterprise, particularly enterprise cybersecurity, like you kind of mentioned, like they get, you said they kind of get it, like they have to stay in market, have to keep kind of going. And their approaches to marketing tend to be, fairly conservative, right? Like they, at least what I can see. And maybe you're seeing some things that aren't apparent to me because I'm not a target, right? I'm not part of that ICP. But they tend to be, somewhat conservative and sort of old playbooks seem to be still in use. But any case, we can talk about this all day. And I have only asked you to spend 30 minutes with me, 2 minutes of which are left. So let's just stop right there and I want to say thank you so much for your commitment to give me a full hour and a little bit on either end on Saturday, because I know that that's your family time. I know that's, well, I'm going to assume that is not MKG marketing time.
Not MKG time, correct.
And this show as an example of what I'm really trying to push into, like what can be done, right? What can be done by just regular people coming together in a live context, right? So like you and I this morning, we don't have a lot of people showing up for us today, but it'll be totally different on Saturday. I promise.
But it's content that lives on too.
It does. It does live on. And the hotnessunleasher.com has been super fun. I don't know.
So
have you had a chance to check that out? Like if you just say,
I can't wait to add names to it.
Me neither. I love to do it. And so we're going to have a good time. We've got sponsors for the first time. So continuing to try to figure out like, how do we use live streaming, not only as a fun way for us to connect, right, outside of our business, but is there a business application for this kind of a conversation? And I think that if we can generate real engagement in an hour and organically produce, right now we're at almost 400 people having pushed the attend button. That's
huge.
I think there's something there, right? I think that it displays appetite, it displays interest, it displays willingness to engage by people. And I think it begins to open up the idea that this channel could be viable, right? It could be viable.
Oh, LinkedIn is 100% viable. Live streaming for sure. I love it. I have to get back into it. I had a few roundtables over the course of a year, and they were wonderful. Again, it's content that, like, even though I didn't have a ton of the people show up in the moment, like, it's content that lives on, really important, powerful content that can then live across everywhere and be reused. And so it can absolutely be timeless. And I love the way you're doing it in terms of paying it forward. So we're all coming on to not talk about ourselves. We're doing the talking about ourselves piece now to let everybody know why you've invited us. But then the show is so dedicated to who we want to call out and why, and paying it forward. And I'm excited to do that.
Awesome. All right. Well, Kerry, I cannot wait until Saturday. I am just like all in 100% Hotness Unleasher this week and just like, crazy. So with that, congratulations on your new hire. Thank you for the tip about Zoom, Guernsey music, your kids, all that stuff. It has been a pleasure getting to know you over the last year. And with that, have a great rest of the week. And I will talk to you, I guess, in a few days. And we are totally sound checked off, so we're good there. All right, so I'm going to push the little wind up button and you can bail out, and we'll call it a day. All right. Thanks, Kerry. Talk soon.
Thanks, Trevor. Talk to you soon.